Hello, today I'm doing something I call a concept tutorial, which is intended to teach you sort of some of the theory behind how to apply or understand certain things rather than actually physically how to code itself. This particular one is on objects today, and I'm doing this because I found the first time when I learnt it, then objects were something it took a while for me to understand and actually appreciate. The whole of Java is based around objects, and if you don't understand it, then it will make your Java experience a lot more difficult. So, the level you need of Java to begin with this is very basic. I will be going from right near the start, but you probably want maybe a couple of little bit of experience already. By that I mean maybe like the first 3 tutorials or something, maybe 5 of whatever tutorial series you're doing. Really, you don't need to know too much, but there are a couple of things I'll just skim over. So, yeah. To get started, what is an object? Well, an object is basically a way of storing data and ways to do stuff. Which is very difficult to explain, but that's my simplest explanation I can think of. They're sort of stored in classes, and you can make many different versions of them. So, let's make a new class, and let's call this object. Now this object will basically be a type of object. This class, whatever's in it, will be the object. So whenever you create a new object, then you will be making a version of whatever is in this class. Now for example, I'm going to store some numbers. Let's say integer A, integer B, and integer C. Now these 3 numbers will be stored in any object I'll make. Now to use these numbers and store them, I'm also going to write some quick methods in order to use them. Now, to explain what these do, this first one, void, so it doesn't return anything, and this will set A. So that's what it's called set A. It needs a parameter of a value, an integer, and basically what it does is it sets this value to this value. So whatever you put in here, it will set this value to it, and that'll be stored in the object. Now, what this does is this keyword basically is talking about this object. I'll get back to it later once I've explained further what objects are. This basically does the same, but instead returns A. So it will return this value. So now I can create a new object. I'll write this to say I'm storing an object, so something of this class, this type of object. I'll call it object, and I'll set that equal to a new instance of object. What this basically means is I'm creating a new version of this class. So in this object variable will be stored everything here, and I can prove that by trying to access it. So if I do object dot what do we have here? Ooh, there's a variable or method for set A. So let's access that. Set A. And I can do it. And let's set that to 10. Now whatever this is, it will be stored in this object variable. The object, this, inside this variable. So whenever I access it, let's, for example, print out what we just added in, dot to get A, then this will print out whatever the A variable is in object, because it will follow this. It will go here, it will say, well, we need an integer, what do we have? Return A. Well, whatever the A variable is, that's what we'll get out. So, if I run this, there you go, 10. So it gives you an output of whatever the A variable is, which we set to be 10. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another object equals object 2, object 1, and object 1 equals another new object. Now this, because I set it equal to a new object, it will be a completely different object to this one. So, for example, if I set object 1 and set the a variable of that to be a 12, then if I run this again, it still prints out 10. This is because you're creating the object variable, you're setting 10 in the object variable as variable a, and in the object you're getting a. There's also this object 2 made, or object 1 even, and inside that object 1 you're setting the a variable to 12. But in the printout, you're printing out the contents of object, not object 1, and they are different. If I change this to object 1, then it will look inside this object instead, and find the a value of that and print that out. As you can see, down here it prints out the value of 12, which is the other one. And if you like, you can do both at the same time. There you go. It is the contents of object 1, or object, and then the contents of object 1. And then it prints one, then the other. So basically, hopefully you understand now, object is basically a way of storing data. Lots of objects already exist to store data, but you can also make your own. And this is where this comes in. You can use it to set your own methods, and it gives you a lot of control because you can pretty much do whatever you want with it. You can add your own variables, you can add your own methods, and just customize it to be exactly as you like. There's also something in these called constructors. These don't have a return type, and instead you just put the name of a class. So this is called a constructor, and basically this code, whatever's here, will be run whenever you create this object. Now, whenever you create a class to begin with, if you haven't got one of these, one like this will automatically be put in by the compiler. So you don't need to worry about making one like this every time. As you can see, this one's exactly the same. There's no difference between this and not having there at all. But if you do want to have one, then you can use it to run extra lines of code. So if I put in hello, run this, and hello will be printed twice before printing out this. This is because when this first object is made, it goes to new object, and when it calls this new object, then it immediately goes here. As well as creating the object, it first does this. Well, after it does this. So it creates the object, does this. This one creates the object, does this. This is useful for setting variables. So for example, in this example, we've now changed the constructor so it takes 2 integers and then applies them. So now we would need to put 2 integers in for it to be happy. I could try putting 1 in, but it isn't happy. We need 2. No more, no less. And it needs to fit these exact parameters for it to work. And then we'll take these variables, do whatever with it, and then that will affect the object later. So if now I create a getB function and call that on object 1, for example, instead of getA, then you'll see it prints out 5. Well, when we created object 1, you set the B variable here to 5. When you set this variable, then when you call it later on object 1, then that will be 5. Now just the way you call an object here, you could say object.setA 10. You can do that whenever you can access this object. But what about inside the class itself? What if here you want to call this getA or getB or any other function inside of the class? Well, to do this, you use the keyword this. Now this always talks about the class itself, the object itself even. So whatever object it is that you've made, then it will talk about that. So when you call it here, this dot get B, it will look for the get B in whatever it is that is currently used. So if you do it here in the object class, sorry, object to object, then it will do that to the object object. If you do it in the object 1 object, then it will do that in the object 1 object. Whatever object this is that this code is being run inside, this will basically talk about this object that you're currently working with. You can see here I've used it to access variables inside the same object. This is because they have the same names, so I need to use this to say, in this object, talk about this variable. And that is it. Hopefully now you understand what an object is and how it works. So, a class represents the object. It basically defines what an object will be. You then create the object by saying, this is the type I want to make, naming it, and saying a new of whatever object type you want to create, which is the same name as the class. The parameters will always be whatever's in the constructor, because that will be instantly called. Then, whenever you access that variable later, which you named object in this case, then it will be able to access anything in this file for this particular version. This allows it to store data and access methods to use that data, which makes lots of things a lot easier. I will just quickly finally give you another example. Objects are so well done into Java that it's actually used in essentially everything. There aren't too many keywords that don't involve objects. So if I do new integer, for example, 7. This is another example of making a new integer. You create a new integer. What do you want to call it? Let's try another one with string. New string. This one is probably the one you'd be most used to. And okay, let's just say string x. And let's put some words in. So this will create a string type. So a type of the class string. Call it x, and then it would make a new string object and then put that variable in order to make the string. Normally it does it automatically by just setting equal to text, but this is an example. You could make the object in this way by doing the same method as you would with this, and that's essentially it. I hope now you understand objects better than you did before. If you have any questions, then please put it in the comments, and if you need more Java because you don't know much about Java or enough to understand this tutorial, I would highly suggest the New Boston as a source. It's a YouTube channel, and I'll put in the description. Hope you liked it, and I hope it was useful. Goodbye.